On this week's episode, we are traveling to Rendili in the core world, where we will discuss capitalism, the politics of imperial contracts, and the definitions of conservatism. On with the show. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Lady Qi'ra's Galactic Adventure, where we traverse the universe in our Correlian Corvette Cruiser, the Vindicator. I am, of course, your host on this excursion, Admiral Qi'ra Vendari of the Alliance to Restore the Republic. This time, we are continuing our exploration of the interior as we travel to the planet Rendili. If you have no questions, comments, or concerns, then make sure to remember not to blame actors for bad characterization, but the lack of inclusivity in the writer's room unless you're talking about the movie Morbius. That Rey, or Daisy Ridley, did absolutely nothing wrong except be subject to writers that wanted her to be basically the female version of Luke Skywalker, even though she is not, and that the worst kind of people are those who will tear you down for simply being excited about something. Most likely out of jealousy. This week on Lady Qi'ra's Galactic Adventure. Oh, and happy Eras Tour, everyone. And in honor of Miss Taylor Allison Swift starting off her Eras Tour, we are going to introduce a new segment on this show. It's time for In My Eras Era. In this part of the show, I'm going to take a T-Swizzle song and give you a character or a situation that exemplifies it. For the fun of it, let's go in backwards album order. So song number 1 is going to be Dear Reader off her 2022 album Midnights. 3 a.m. edition, specifically, by the way. One person immediately comes to mind when I think Dear Reader. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me explain. Obi-Wan is a sad boy, so I feel like most songs about isolationism and loneliness fit the bill for him pretty exactly, honestly. Dear Reader itself is very existential, so I feel like it goes an extra step. The first verse starts very strongly with Swift saying, Dear Reader, if it feels like a trap, you're already in one. And in this case, trap is not a reference to Admiral Akbar. I am sorry. She continues, Dear Reader, get out your map, pick somewhere and just run. Burn all the files, desert all your past lives, and if you don't recognize yourself, that means you did it right. This whole verse reminds me of Obi so much, and for so many different reasons, so let's get into them. He changes his name multiple times in the series. He changes his name to Ben twice. First, in the Rogo Hardin arc, it's his call sign, right, in the Clone Wars. And then after Order 66. And both times, Obi-Wan suffers dramatically. Like, excessively. From the same feelings, because not only did he break the hearts of his loved ones, but also because he didn't think he had any other options to take, right? As Rogo Hardin, Obi-Wan thought that by faking his own death, that he would be a step closer to ending the war, but all that really happened was an onslaught of Anakin Skywalker red flags. Not very surprising, right? I think Anakin really almost went Vader and almost took Ahsoka with him before he figured out that Obi-Wan was alive. And after Order 66, Obi-Wan, he had to desert who he was because he would have been caught and killed, and the twins would have been found, right? But in changing his name, he lost all of himself. He lost his connection to the Force, which manifested in horrible nightmares of Anakin and his fall, with Master Qui-Gon's voice trying to pull him out of that despair. He lost his purpose, which he only remembered after saving Leia and connecting with her the same way he did with Anakin and Padme, right? And finding new ways to protect Luke and the Lars family after seeing the emotional struggles of an Inquisitor for himself, and seeing how he was not the only one to, feel the way that he was feeling after the purge, The chorus of the song goes, Never take advice from someone who's falling apart. Sung differently 2 times, right? Meaning that the writer is telling the reader, get it, not to take their advice. Since, due to taking it themselves, they're nothing but broken. Which reminds me of how Obi-Wan taught Luke, right? Gentler than he taught Anakin, because he learned his lesson that way, right? Gentler than he taught himself, because he knows now what it feels like to lose everything, including his own mind, and he does not want Luke to go down the path that both he and Anakin have gone down to varying degrees of, dark-sightedness. and that's only the first verse and the first chorus. For deeper analysis, I think I'm going to do an extra video on my Patreon where I go into the other verses, because especially at the end of that song is real spicy. For, spicy as in spicy water coming out of my eyes. And that was in my Era's era. Back to your regularly scheduled program. If you have been around the metaphorical block before, you know that we first start out with the undescriptive planetary Disney canon and then move on to the legend stuff if it's applicable from there. So let's get right into this. In canon, Rendili is an ancient conservative planet, more on that later, located at M11, in the core worlds. Rendili was host to a few major corporations, like Rendili Star Drive and its predecessor, Rendili Hyperworks. Both are starship manufacturers that provided light cruisers throughout Republic history, and canonically at least up until the Clone Wars. The canon is not very clear on the Empire manufacturing system. The Legends is, so more on that later, obviously. Believe it or not, it is almost history time already. We're 5 minutes in. We've done worse before, though. But there's one more thing I need to cover. There's a governmental position on the planet known as the Arch Provost. It is a governing position, but I don't know what they do. I don't know if they are, like, supreme in the land. Like, there's nothing about them, just that it's a governing position. Like, it's unclear, but again, it's unclear whether it's like a singular ruler, like a king or a queen or like a dictator or something, or if there's like an accompanying body of legislature, like a congress or anything else. But it's best not to make assumptions about it, though, for if you do, you make an ass out of you and me. And it's time for everyone's favorite segment now. Dudes and dudettes. It's history time. Hey, your girl's an idiot. I'm gonna be wearing my glasses because I cannot see my own screen that's right in front of me. Anyways, we don't have much of an early history on Rendili in canon, so the earliest period that we have is the Clone Wars. After the first battle of Geonosis, the Arch Provost ordered industrial spies and starship designers to spy on Kuwati designs to reduce the amount of Republic contracts that Kuwat would receive, because they were getting, like, all of them, right? So capitalism, friends, is a curse in every universe. I will put that personally on a t-shirt and sell it if I must. For more information on Kuwat and their shipbuilding industry, go check out my episode on Kuwat entitled The Core Worlds Kuwat. That's it. Are you expecting something else? If you can't tell, I was not feeling a title that week. The only thing I think you might need to know for just context right now is that the shipyards on Kuwat were situated in an artificial planetary ring that basically sat upon the equator, right? In comparison to Rendili, they would be more prone to an attack because they're more flashy, I guess, because you could see them. But despite having, of course, the Isengard stamp of approval, that's a very important stamp of approval to have, because Rendili spread out their shipyards across the mid and outer rims. And this might equate to, a lack of efficiency and a lack of consistency among ships that are being built, but during wartime, it would ensure that ships would continue to be made should one or two of those sites be targeted by the enemy. And if you're wondering what Rendili did during the Clone Wars to warrant this, besides making ships, I have absolutely no idea. There are no major battles in the area, in canon at least, nor are there any important officers on either side located here or having any relations to this planet. All I know is that when the Republic was no more, Rendili supported the Empire's reign, which I think is implied in that tiny little sub-intro I gave. Because usually when planets are referred to as conservative in Star Wars, that means that they support the Empire. And why might that be, though? Let's think this through a little bit. If we are referring to someone or something as conservative, we are saying that those people uphold, pre-existing values and institutions, that they're more traditionally minded. Conservatism itself can also be linked greatly into, maintaining caution and discretion. Based on those definitions, let's try to figure out where Rendili fits into them, right? Rendili and its industry is based in capitalism for the benefit of a greater political body, whether that be their own, at-home government, the Arch Provost, or the greater intergalactic governing body of the time, be it republic or empire. This means that a government is directly supporting the industry and upholding the economy of the planet. Now, when the government of the whole galaxy shifts from a democratic republic to the empire, there are a few significant changes that we have to note. The republic was not always in a state of war. Certain places in it may have been, but the republic itself was not openly engaging in warfare. And we know this because they did not have a standing army until the end of episode 2, Attack of the Clones, right? Oppositely, the empire is always at war. Always. From the Blitz attack on the Jedi Order that started it up until the Battle of Jakku, when the empire technically ends with, the Galactic Concordance being signed, even though it doesn't really end there. The Empire, to continue that warfare, desperately needs ships and supplies, and planets like Kuwad and Rendili can more than supply those things right to them, meaning that they would have more of an incentive to sign up. They would provide their services to the Empire, and in return, the Empire would give them money and protection in case a rebel cell, wanted to strike down their industry, like they did try multiple times on Kuwat, which I think were mostly distractions at the time. Contextually, it just kind of makes sense, but this alone makes them fit into both definitions. Let me explain. I think they fit the first definition of conservatism in upholding those traditional ideas and situationships, and their trade relations are their main priority at this point, right? But depending on their motive, the true motive behind, policymakers, they could also fit the second definition of being cautious or discreet, as their economy and the holding up of it is the livelihood of the planet and the people that live on it. The thing to note is that we are biased people. Every person is biased in their own right? And we don't have any first-hand accounts of the decision makers on the planet and why they did the things that they did. So we don't even know what the Arch Provost does, right? For maker's sake, is what I wrote down in my script. I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. Meaning that and by our I mean my assumptions, may not be accurate in the slightest. But I would argue that despite the accuracy of ideas, it is important to apply this level of questioning to one's personal life. The analytic tools and skills that we learn from media could and should be used to analyze the world that we live in and what political decision makers in our world are doing. I say this to you because since last I posted, America has fallen into ruins. I want you all, educated, beautiful people, to understand the reasoning that conservative decision makers are using to hurt marginalized groups like the LGBTQIA+ peoples, Jewish peoples, Native Americans and Native peoples across the world, African Americans and Black people across the world, women in the world, especially in America, are being punished for nothing right now, right? But the reasoning behind it isn't based on conservatism. It's based on distraction. Their attacks against these groups are due to an overemphasis of religion in politics, miseducation of religion and other topics, misunderstanding of topics, and as a means of misdirection. If you don't believe me, do your own research, and I get you will come to the same conclusion. Representatives voted into office by thousands are sitting in Congress claiming that trans people don't exist or are Satan, and that drag queens are corrupting children in schools. When a 6-year-old brought a gun into his school, when a 6-year-old child brought a gun to school and shot his teacher. They are using these groups as filibusters to stop the American public from seeing how little effort they put in to important topics like gun regulation laws, since they have deemed their own personal agendas at attacking trans people, right, more important than the people that voted them into office and their physical safety. I beg any of you listening to educate yourselves and those around you, even if they're unwilling to learn, or America may actually face a revolution and not a philosophical one. Anyways, if you're looking for a way to educate yourself, support Black creators and activists on any site. If you see them, support them, unless they're doing something incredibly wrong like any other person. Because they are... See, I don't know what kind of audience I have yet. So I don't want to say stuff that's going to get me in trouble. I don't think anything I would say would get me in trouble. I think that what I'd say would be unliked, which is that we share the same earth. And if you can't give these people the support and respect that they deserve, then you're not a human being. Support Black creators. Support Black activists. Petition against ICWA. The United States of America is trying to separate Native children from their families, and that is not okay. That is against the Constitution. They were on this land before any of us of European descent came here. They deserve more respect. They deserve a voice, and that is what they are not getting, right? Make sure you sign any petition against any anti-trans laws that you come across, right? And against decreased abortion rates. Because abortion is healthcare, and what a woman does with her body should not be determined by a man that doesn't even know what a fucking clitoris is. Okay? Men can't even talk about menstruation or any of women's health issues without getting disgusted. And yet we're expected to shut up. No. That's not how this is going to work anymore. Because nothing matters, right? Until it affects a congressman's family, right? If a congressman's daughter gets pregnant and needs an abortion, they're going to get it. But if an average American who is living paycheck to paycheck wants an abortion because they cannot support a fucking child, they're not allowed one. Anyways, back to Star Wars. Like, there's only really one more canon thing that I think you need to know, which is that after the signing of the Galactic Concordance, which we talked about a little bit before, Rendili would remain part of an Imperial remnant and would not join the New Republic. And that is about everything I have in canon on Rendili, so if you could do me a quick favor and put on those Legends lenses under your seat, so we can learn a bit more about this place. I'm gonna let y'all know right off the bat that we have practically no information on the Rendili system, so there's no system time today. We already know that Rendili is located at M11 in the core worlds, but fun fact, Rendili also has a population of about 600 billion people, mostly humans, that speak Galactic Basic. And, would you look at the time? I think it's history time. Yet again. Do I need to do the theme music again? Like, you know what? I'll speed it up so y'all don't get bored. Weirdly enough, we now get the early history of the planet. I'm gonna come over here so I can put some text on the screen. Don't question it. Rendili, much like most of the core and the deep core, was settled by sleeper ships, probably from Kuwait or Coruscant, sometime after 27,500 BBY. And that is a weird stopping off point, right? But let me explain. In that exact year is when humans on Coruscant began developing sleeper ships, right? And with other planets like Kuwait following soon after. By the creation of the Galactic Republic, 25,053 BBY, by the way, to which Rendili was a founding member in Legends, which is, where we are now, it had become a military stronghold. For who? I don't know. For themselves, obviously, but I'm unsure or if they were, hosting, important persons, or any things in particular that would require such a stronghold. Maybe it was for their ships, which I'm unclear if they're building en masse at this point in time. It's obvious that they had some types of ships if they were a founding member of the Republic, because how else would they get to Coruscant for, meetings of the Galactic Republic. Because teleportation doesn't exist in Star Wars, right? Unless you're a Force ghost. Must be nice. Well, actually, you'd have to be dead to be a Force ghost. So, no, not nice. Okay. In all honesty, most of the history from Legends is the same as the canon stuff. With a few exceptions. One major one being that in 20 BBY, during the Clone Wars period, a provisional government took over Rendili, severing its ties with the Republic, and later joining the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Separatists, right? We then know that they joined the Empire, as we've already covered, and in Legends, though Rendili does end up joining... Rendili does end up joining the New Republic in 10 ABY. And that's about everything I have. And that is everything I have for you on Rendili and Canon and Legends. I hope you enjoyed your journey this week and your stay so far aboard the Vindicator. If you have any questions or concerns about your stay, feel free to bring it up with one of our personnel on board via a private message or a DM. Perhaps on our TikTok accounts at Shadow Collective Rules with a Z, or at Unidentified Robot, or maybe our Instagram at Lady Qi'ra, or maybe our new Twitter, however long that's gonna last, at twitter.com/ wow, I can't speak, capital L-A-D-Y, capital L, lowercase A-D-Y, __, capital Q, lowercase I-R-A. Wow, that was... I'm so special. Or perhaps with a review of our show on Apple Podcasts and a... continuing our usual theme, take that, fruit roll up, fruit by the foot style Jar Jar Binks tongue you have in that mouth and go and hit that big red button underneath my video. If you do that, you'll be automatically subscribed to this channel. If you accidentally hit that bell icon next to it, you'll be notified of every single time I upload a new video, which is usually Mondays at about 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course. If you want more of me, I don't know why you would. You can head on over to patreon.com/Lady Qi'ra Productions, and for only, actually, one Lady Qi'ra Productions, one Lady Qi'ra, no apostrophe, Productions, and for only $5 a month, you can have access to tons of additional content in our exclusive Discord community. Sorry, just got an email. All of those usernames and their respective platforms will be listed in the show notes. Next time, we will be journeying to Bayasa? I don't know, in whatever core worlds that I can cover in about 30 minutes or less. Until next time, my friends, companions, and droids, may the Force be with you all. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me.